All right. Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for jumping on the call today. Thank you for joining us. We're super excited. I got a special guest speaker here with us today who's going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've done in the past. And just a quick agenda and give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. I'm just going to give you a quick little brief history about myself, and then a little bit of a market update. And then we're going to turn it over to our special guest speaker to kind of give us some tips and some strategies on how to live an extraordinary life. Me personally, I'm the branch manager of TOLO Lending. So we started TOLO Lending just to kind of be cut out the middleman, if you will, and be more of a direct to the investor situation and take out all the red tape associated to qualifying for a loan. Also want to be a very good partner to you, everybody on this call, or who's watching it maybe later, to give you some tips, tools, and some market insight, and help keep you engaged with your clients and be able to grow your business. I've been an underwriter. I think most of you on this call know me, know that I've been an underwriter for most of my career, 22 years in the lending business, and most of that as an underwriter. I've been an originator for almost a decade now. And I really enjoy the loan officer aspect of this industry more so than the underwriting aspect, because I get to connect with people on a very real basis and help them get into their homes and help them live their dreams and buy that house or buy that dream house or their cabin. So the loan officer part of it's really fulfilling. I set up this platform so that we can kind of help our partners. And, over my career, the main thing that I strive for is just kind of helping the people around me be better. And if I can help my partners generate more business and grow their businesses, it's going to in turn help me grow mine. With that, I just kind of wanted to give a quick market update just to kind of let everybody know where the market's at. We had a CPI report come out this morning. I don't want to get too overly technical with you, and I don't want to take up too much time because our special guest is here, but I'm just going to share my screen real quick if you'll allow me to do that, Dave.
Hold on just 1 second.
And I should probably preface it. Today is August 14th. The Consumer Price Index report came out this morning. That's the CPI. If you ever like doing a Google search, like what's the CPI got to say? This is a little bit of the details associated to this CPI. So the market was, I think am I sharing my screen?
Yeah.
Do you see the consumer price index? Okay.
Yeah, you bet.
In there, the headline number came out today at 1.55. The core number came out at 1.65. The market was anticipating around 2 to 2.7 for the month over month increase of where CPI was going to be at. So these numbers are actually very favorable for the market, and we're seeing some really good movement in the market today in regards to pricing. So all fantastic things. If we annualize these numbers, the month over month numbers, our inflationary numbers are running under 2%. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. I should probably have muted that. But anyways, so the majority of the CPI is being held up by shelter. So shelter, its effect on the CPI numbers are huge. If you look at everything else other than shelter and motor vehicle insurance, their year over year numbers are reflecting at this. But everything else for your food and groceries and everything else that makes up the CPI are running at very, very, very low numbers, and actually posted a negative number last month. So their year over year effect is very low. But with that, I am, if you do want to subscribe to the link that got you to my link tree, you can sign up for TOLO Tips, which will get you some market updates. So as we do more detailed market updates as the market changes, we'd be happy to share those videos and that with you. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And without further ado, I just want to introduce you to David Bush. So David and I have been working together for a couple months now since I started TOLO Lending, and he's really been beneficial to me to help with my mindset, with my prioritization of things. And I tell my wife this, that like, we talk every week and we do like a recap and we do kind of accountability check and things like that. And my week could just be running off the rails. And I'll have that conversation with David and he'll help put my mindset in a place that helps me focus on my priorities and focus on the things that help me stay focused on the big picture and making sure that my business is running effectively because I've set up the structure to run my business effectively, not because I'm working harder and not because I'm, working Saturdays and Sundays and all the things that I do, but because my business is working properly. So without further ado, David, if you want to give a little bit of a background about yourself and where you got to where you're at, and you can take it from there.
You bet. Well, thanks for having me, Tony. It's always a pleasure to be able to spend time with extraordinary leaders like you and all of the guests that you've invited to join us live, or those that are watching a recording. So, yeah, I'm 51 years of age today, not birthday today, but that's what my current age is. And I could tell you a lot about those 51 years, a lot of experiences that shaped who I am today and shape a lot of the coaching experience that I try to deliver to other people. But my background is I graduated high school, wanted to play professional football, went and played college football, got a scholarship to University of South Dakota, ended up going on to play a thing called arena football. So my 10 seconds of fame was I was the guy that hiked the ball to the Hall of Fame quarterback, Kurt Warner, who won the Super Bowl with the Rams and went to the Super Bowl twice with the Rams, once with the Cardinals. And I ended up having an amazing experience living out one of my childhood dreams, playing at a high level. I suffered a career-ending lack of talent after 4 years of playing football, which led me into the mortgage industry, which I ended up spending almost 10 years in the mortgage industry as a top originator, just aspired to be great, aspired to serve people. So I basically proved out I can be a top producer, got into branch management, as oftentimes goes with being a top producer. You end up getting opportunities to lead other people, which I enjoyed. And then I ended up going into the C-suite level, being a regional vice president, doing in the high level stuff, and the chief operations officer, and then ended up opening up my own office and having all the thrills of being self-employed, broker owner, and all the things that go with that. And then after having a successful career, I really just got passionate about the idea about being a people farmer and helping people to grow and helping people to design and live extraordinary lives and being successful in both the marketplace and in the home life, and having that work-life integration. And so really got passionate about that. So 2006 transitioned, and basically been coaching individuals since about 2004, started doing it full time in 2006. And I get the awesome opportunity to work with extraordinary people that are wanting to take it up a notch and achieve extraordinary results. And oftentimes that comes with starting out with designing their extraordinary life plan and extraordinary business plan, and then basically taking those two plans and then matching those up with a plan that actually matches their dream or their desired outcome. And I just basically encourage, hold accountable, share tools and resources. And it's been really powerful. The opportunity to be able to make an impact in the lives of other people and seeing that ripple effect has been something that has never made me want to leave doing what I'm doing. So really enjoy working with you, and enjoy the opportunity we have today to share some of those principles that could be very well life-changing for many others.
Thank you. So we asked some of our participants to provide some what they want to hear and what they want to get out of this call. Obviously, you're an accomplished author as well, and you've written books and that. But I think one of the things that was a reoccurring theme on the participants who have signed up for this webinar is efficiencies, and kind of talk about maybe some strategies about structuring your day and your maybe in the mindset and things like that can help entrepreneurs or real estate agents or title agents or insurance agents that are running their own businesses, how to be more efficient with what they do.
Yeah, great question. And yeah, it is probably one of the most asked questions, because I think that many of us have gotten so distracted by all of the different technology, right? I mean, at this point today is the least complicated life is going to be as it relates to technology. It's just going to get more complicated as more and more technologies get introduced. And while there's been a lot of advancements in personal organization and tools that help you to become more efficient, a lot of times those things get put off to the side because it becomes so overwhelming to manage all of those things. And I would say that, if I could, give a jotter downer or a takeaway from today, the thing that I would say for most is to begin with an end in mind. That's where the idea of having an extraordinary life plan really helps people to organize their life or organize their calendar around what matters most. Most people are just reacting, right? They're reacting to the tyranny of the urgent. I mean, in the mortgage, real estate, financial services, insurance space, there's always service requests, there's always problems. And a lot of times those things can zap a lot of time if we don't have that time dedicated to the things that matter most, because typically, right, work expands for the time allotted. And so that's a principle that we've all experienced, is that if we don't set a deadline for something, it can take us a long time to achieve something very simple. So by putting in an established boundary line as to where am I going to spend time in my faith? Where am I going to spend time with my spouse or my family? Where am I going to spend time in my own personal health and well-being and fun and recreation? If you don't start making time for the highest priorities, they won't typically find time in your calendar, because you'll constantly fill it up with reactionary type of activities. And a lot of times that just starts with clarifying, what is it that you want to be, do, and have? I mean, if you could design your perfect week, if you could design your perfect month or your perfect year, what would be the things that need to take place to make you feel like you had an extraordinary year or an extraordinary quarter or an extraordinary month or an extraordinary week or an extraordinary day, and just working them back to a daily schedule that matches your desired outcome. And sometimes that just takes a person to kind of ask the right questions and to kind of walk you through it, because it can be perceived as very complex to do that. It's not really that difficult, but for people to slow down and to take care of that, they oftentimes will say, you know what, that's not really the most important thing I need to do. I need to go focus on getting more business, or I need to, solve that problem in my business, or I need to react to that urgent issue. And so another aspect of that would be the Eisenhower matrix, and really just clarifying, what are the things that are urgent and important? What are the things that are urgent and not important? And what are the things that are not important and not urgent? And what are the things that are not urgent but important? And that particular category, the things that are not urgent but are important, is often the thing that gets sacrificed. And that's where people feel a lack of balance or a feel of disintegration. Their life is disintegrating, and they just need to go back to, what do I want to be, do, and have? And then beginning to identify. And I've noticed that the executive clients that I work with, there's oftentimes a few arsonists that start the fires that lead them to have to go into crisis mode. And if you can just start to identify those arsonists, sometimes the arsonist is a staff member or an assistant or a family member, or somebody that is not in a position where they are giving people the structure that they need, the boundaries to keep them, protected from people asking them to do more or to do something right then. They just don't have clear boundaries and clear communication. So identifying those arsonists is a big, big step to determining how to stop the fires from constantly pulling you away from things that matter most.
I think with that, like personally, some of the tools and tricks and stuff you've given me is like start my day with a reoccurring meeting, and then adjust that meeting and put things that, like you said, that are urgent, but and important at the top of that list. But then put the things that I shouldn't be spending my time on. Things that I know I need to do. I need to get this done, or I need to work on learning more about this tool or this system, and put it on the list of non-urgent but important, so that I see it every single day. Like, yeah, oh, that's right, I got to do that. And that's like, at being like an accountability coach, or like an extraordinary results coach, it's good to keep those goals at the forefront of your mind, so that you're looking at it, and you're knowing it's down on paper, it's a task you need to do, but you're keeping that priorities in line, so it's still there, you're still seeing it, but you're not reacting to it. You're not like, stop what you're doing because I need to go work on this, and then stop what you're doing because I need to go work on this. I've benefited from that hugely, just from the fact of knowing, what are my priorities, and instead of sacrificing my family time, or doing this, or working all night long, set boundaries. Like, I'm going to be with my kids, from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. every night. That's when I pick them up, and that's when we're doing our family time. And at 8 o'clock, when they go to bed, if I got to jump back on and I got to work, from 8 to midnight to get everything else done, that's fine. But I need to give that time to my kids, because my kids are 5 and 7. That they're not going to be 5 and 7 forever. Like, that is the joy of my world, is spending that time with the kids. And when I took on this thing and started this new company, and we're doing this Tolo lending thing, I found that I was sacrificing my priority. I was moving family down on that list because I was putting this or that in front of it. And really having a plan and putting down on paper of what you want to be, do, and have is super important to starting your priority list and your effectiveness on how you're using your time. So
Yeah, we'll make
that's
sure that everybody gets a copy of the digital version of the Extraordinary Life Planner, just so that they can kind of go through that process. There's actually a process that we go through, kind of clarifying, what's most important to you, and then starting to break that down into a perfect week or an extraordinary week. And you strive for the extraordinary week. You don't always have one, but if you have clarity of what an extraordinary week looks like, you're going to be more likely to accomplish it than if you don't have a plan at all, right? My favorite life quote is, if you fail to create your own plan, chances are you're going to fall into somebody else's plan. And guess what they got planned for you? Not much. And that's by Jim Rohn. And it's been something that has been, I teach my kids that. They could even quote it because they've heard me say it so many times. And a plan doesn't mean that it's a mandate. I mean, you're the author of the plan. So if you decide to change how the chapters read, you get a chance to change the narrative. You get a chance to determine what the actual plan says. And if you need to change it, change it. It's kind of like a working document. But if you fail to plan, I will guarantee you, you will fall into the plans of other people. And those plans may be not to hurt you, but it may be the plans that they have. They have plans for when you're going to do things. They have plans for when you're going to respond to their text or respond to their messages or emails. And so what I find is that, people are oftentimes attached to the end of a rope. And that person on the other end of the rope is just making them go in all kinds of different places that they don't want to go, because they've just given them the authority to do it by not having a plan. So it's not a perfect process, as you've personally experienced and I've experienced, but it is a process that you can become better at organizing your life around what matters most.
absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about maybe your book. So I'm reading it, and I have full honesty, I haven't made it through it because life happens. But Live an Extraordinary Life: 6 Commitments to Live Your Dreams and Change Your World. Do you want to talk about some of the principles in your book?
Yeah, and I'll make sure that everybody gets a copy of the workshop that I did that kind of walks through the 6 commitments, and when they go through the planner, that can kind of give them the big picture. And if they want to get a copy of the book, it's not expensive on Amazon or through the website. So the main premise of the book is really helping people to understand that living an extraordinary life is not a complicated strategy. It oftentimes is very simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple. And I spent 20 plus years working with a lot of entrepreneurs and executives and doing speaking engagements, and I interviewed a lot of main popular authors, speakers. I mean, a lot of people that have been very, very extraordinary in terms of their life, their work, their marriages, their relationships, their parenting. And I found that there was 6 common things that I found that if you can make a commitment to these 6 things, you have a really good chance of achieving extraordinary results and living an extraordinary life. And I'll give you the quick flyover. And I used a mountain climbing analogy, as Tony shared in the book, is that I use this concept of, if you're starting off down here, you're climbing up. Here is your extraordinary life. It's, realizing your dreams and changing your world. But there's a process that goes with this that's kind of an ascent up a mountain. And I do think that living an extraordinary life and achieving extraordinary results is going against the path of resistance. It's an uphill climb. You must embrace the concept that it's going to be harder than not climbing uphill, whether you're camped out in the valley of complacency or whether you're rafting the river of an ordinary life. That is going to be easier in the short term, but it's going to oftentimes lead you to a a not so good outcome. People that are rafting the river of an ordinary life, they're kind of just going with the flow, and they're going to go over the waterfall of life or the waterfall of regret. And they're going to have a lot more regrets, and they're going to have things happen in their life because they were just simply going with the flow, taking what was easy. And it's oftentimes easy come, easy go. And then there's going to be people that are camped out in the valley of complacency where they don't necessarily have anything that is like a peak or a summit. Some people call it their Everest. But they don't have something that they've clarified that they really want to be, do, and have, but they're not in the river of a living an ordinary or an unhealthy, unfulfilled life. They're just in this spot of being in a valley. It's not too dangerous, not too complex, but it's also not very fulfilling and not very rewarding. And then if you continue up the mountain, you'll find people that are in what I call a comfort cave. They're actually successful people. If you would look at them, you would say that they probably have a good relationship with their spouse. They oftentimes are maintaining a healthy life. They're not necessarily disease ridden and on multiple medications. They're probably doing fairly well financially. They probably have a good, fulfilling career or business, but they've gotten comfortable. They're not fulfilling their full potential, and they know it. They know that they're not doing what they could do, but they oftentimes have just got to the point where they're just kind of enjoying the benefits of past success. And I was that person. I think that all of us have spent a little time in the comfort cave. It's not a bad thing, or you're not a bad person if you're doing it. It oftentimes is just an awakening to realize, yes, you're right. I've been in a comfort cave and I don't want to be here anymore. I remember what it felt like to go reach a new peak or a new summit. And every time I did that, I was inspired to do something greater. But oftentimes, climbing up to the top of the peak or reaching the top of extraordinary life mountain requires going through these 6 commitments. And so let me just go through them real quickly. And if people have questions or if you want to talk about them further, we can. The first one, it spells out, if you just take a sheet of paper, if you're writing down on your phone, you can just write out the word leader. I use this acronym just to kind of remind people how simple it is to kind of do an assessment and say, am I living out these 6 commitments? So the first one is live your calling. And, not everybody has a, faith-based calling, or they don't feel called to do something. But what I try to do is I try to connect it back to like a life purpose or a life mission or something that is fulfilling to you. It's something that you're committing to doing that's greater than you. It's not necessarily a dream or a goal that you want to accomplish. It's more about something that has fulfillment and purpose and feels like that your life has meaning and it has a mission to it. And so I give some questions to the idea of like, what are things that, just mend your heart, make you feel good, things that you do for other people, or things that you could, look back on and say, if I could be that, or if I could do this, or if I could have that, I would feel like that I would be answering the call to my life or living out my life mission. That's commitment number 1. And I go through some questions to help people to clarify their calling. And if they're not, in tune with the word calling, they can use other words like mission and purpose and whatever. But I use the analogy of the wake-up call, is that many of us remember having a wake-up call in a hotel before they had all the digital technology, but you'd call and you'd say, hey, I'd like to be woken up at this particular time. And I think that many of us are experiencing that wake-up call where we're hearing the ringing, but we're tuning it out. We're closing our ears, we're putting the pillow over our ears, we're just avoiding the calling because it's calling us to do something that's uncomfortable. We have to either sacrifice something, or we have to go find time or find money or find people to fulfill it. And we don't necessarily want to go do that because we're resting in the comfort cave, or we just don't know what that calling actually looks like. Or every time we think of it, we're scared to death of it. It's like, what? I don't know if I want to do that or be that. But it's oftentimes what brings people the most extraordinary results is when they can attach themselves to a mission or purpose or calling. So they get out of the measurement mindset and they get into the mission mindset, because people will do things for a mission that they won't do for a particular goal, because people are wired to do things that are bigger than themselves. And so when they attach something like a calling to their life, they oftentimes will overcome adversities and excuses and obstacles and setbacks and challenges where they may not do those same things in connection to a goal that they set. So live your calling is the first one, and only you can answer that. I can answer that for you because only you know what you're called to do or be or have. But once you answer that question, now you can ask the question or answer the question, am I living my calling? The second one is to engage in your dreams. And so Zig Ziglar has this quote that says, motivation's like bathing. If you don't do it daily, life begins to stink. And I have a list of dreams that I've put into the book and into the life planner to give people some ideas of things that they could strive for, things that would make them happier, healthier, wealthier, more fulfilled. It doesn't mean that you have to have this huge want list or bucket list or life list, but I think that people are going to live a more extraordinary life if they have clarity of things that are meaningful to them that they'd like to achieve. And when you go out there and engage in your dreams and engage in the things that you want to be, do, and have on a daily basis, you renew your mind on things that are important to you, and that pulls people to a higher level, a higher standard. You start organizing your life around things that you've said, these are the things that I'd like to accomplish. They're important to me. And your decisions of your dreams actually become like a filter to all of the other actions in your schedule. So without the calling and without the dreams being engaged on a regular basis, people oftentimes get too caught up in the work about making those things happen. But if you spend time with your calling and your dreams and you engage in it, almost like bathing in it, reviewing it on a regular basis, you're going to be more motivated and you're going to have a more growth mindset, which is going to tell you, how can I do this? I don't necessarily know. I know that Tony has some big dreams and he has a big calling to serve, to give back to the community and to make a huge difference and to leave a legacy for his family. And he's the kind of person that's asking the question, what is it that I need to know to fulfill that? Because he's clarified it. He said, this is what I want to be, do, and have. And now he's looking for solutions and he's constantly recognizing opportunities and challenges and obstacles that he has to overcome to make that a reality. Many people that are not living an extraordinary life have never spent the time to clarify those. The third commitment is getting to the point where you are agreeing to make hard choices. So the A in leader is agreeing to make hard choices. And to live an extraordinary life, you have to make some hard choices. You have to separate the good from the great. You have to say no to a lot of really good things so that you can spend the time on the things that are really extraordinary, that are above and beyond what's usual, regular, and customary. And that's hard. That's why it's agreeing to do hard things, is you're actually agreeing to do something that is putting you outside your comfort zone. And if you get outside your comfort zone and you surpass the fear barrier or the terror barrier of change, you can oftentimes begin to learn that the things that you were telling yourself about what was hard was not really that hard at all. Like, I ended up losing 100 pounds 15 years ago. I struggled with that, Tony, my entire childhood, up until the time I was 35 years of age. And I told myself a lot of things about how hard it was to do the right thing when it came to eating right and exercising. But I built that up in my mind. It wasn't really that hard. It was simple to do, not easy, but simple. I just had to agree to do hard things. And so I started using words like, I get to make healthy choices. I get to go out and exercise. I get to go to bed and get good restful sleep. And I started changing the language about what I was agreeing to do. And that totally changed the trajectory of my health and my life and many other areas. I mean, that one thing of losing 100 pounds had a ripple effect all the way through my life. And that's what I've begun to share with other people, is that if you agree to do hard things, not something so hard that you couldn't even possibly imagine doing it, but do something that's hard. So if it's, something that is exercise related, like agree to do something that's hard. Not the hardest thing you could do, but something that's hard, and do it consistently day in and day out, and watch how extraordinary things start to take place. The fourth commitment is to decide to fail forward. What I have found is that most people think of the word failure as the opposite of success. I know I did. But what I've tried to share with people is that failure is the bridge to success. It's not the opposite. And if you try to stay away from failure, you're actually going to fail to cross the bridge to success. So if you have failed in the past of trying to make changes or trying to fulfill a calling or trying to realize a dream, that doesn't mean that you are a failure. It just means that you haven't found the strategies of successful principles that will lead you to the success that you desire. So if you decide to say, I'm going to fail my way forward, I'm not going to keep making the same mistake over and over again and expecting a different result. I'm actually going to decide to fail forward, and I'm going to learn from every failure. And when I do that, I become more, I achieve more, I learn more, and that helps me to explore more. And so deciding to fail forward is number 4. The 5th one is to expand your perspective. And this is a great little jotter downer. It's a great exercise to go through, especially with other people that you may have an influence on, like staff members or friends. But I'm going to tell you to write down these letters, and this will basically say it all. So I'm going to give you these letters, write them down on a sheet of paper, or write them down on your phone or whatever you're able to write things down on. And I'm going to give them to you twice. Okay. And then we're going to talk about it. So the letters are OPP, ORT, UNI, TY, IS, NO, WHERE. Give it to you one more time. It's OPP, ORT, UNI, TY, IS, NO, WHERE. When you look at those letters, it's easy to see what it says, right? I mean, you can type it in the chat if you want to, but what does that phrase say? If anybody has the capacity to type it in the chat quick, we'll just get a few people that just step out and they act as an extraordinary leader and they write it down and they saw it first. And so they want to be the first one to recognize it. Does anybody have it? There you go. Opportunity is nowhere. That's what people will oftentimes say. When they read those letters in that sequence, in the way that they wrote them down, they'll see opportunity is nowhere. It also says opportunity is now here, if you choose to see it that way. And, the expand your perspective is that there's this great quote by Mark Twain, and it's one of my favorite quotes, and it's a jotter downer for sure, something that you would want to keep a hold of. And the quote is, it's not the things that we know that get us into trouble. It's all the things that we know for absolute certain that just aren't so. It's not the things that we know that get us into trouble. It's all the things we know for absolute certain that just aren't so. So there's the difference between facts and fiction. And all of us have been given facts. But what we have done differently is we've created fictional stories based upon the thoughts that were implanted in us as children, thoughts and experiences that were imprinted on us as we lived our life, and then thoughts and experiences that we have experienced inspiration from just based upon things that we've achieved or things that we've failed on or things that other people around us have been achieving and accomplished. I mean, people do what people do. So if you have been around people who have failed at business or failed at being healthy, you oftentimes will have implanted thought patterns in your head, even in your subconscious, that tells you it's impossible to live a healthy lifestyle. That was one of the things that I experienced. Is I grew up in a family where we used food for recreation and entertainment and medication and all the things. And so I was implanted with a thought process that was causing me to make repeated unhealthy decisions. And even if I tried to change what I ate and change what I did for exercise, it wouldn't be long lasting because I had these implanted and imprinted belief systems and I had all this failure attached to it. So my reality is that I'm just a big bone guy. I'm just, I'm just my destiny is to be a heavier person, and weight loss is just not in my future. But as I began to expand my perspective and I began to see how other people thought, a lot of the things that I knew for certain, they just weren't so. And so I started replacing negative thoughts and limiting beliefs and doubts and concerns and concepts that are oftentimes associated with what they call a fixed mindset. And I started replacing those with a growth mindset, which, if you ever read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, it talks a lot about developing this growth mindset. So my simple commitment, Tony, is to expand your perspective. And if you are constantly expanding your perspective and you're staying in that open and curious growth mindset, you're going to have more extraordinary things happen than if you just keep telling yourself, I just don't have the time to exercise. I don't have the time to grow my business. I'm just not good enough to develop more transactions or more opportunities or more sales. And then the last one is to resolve to achieve your goals. That's the last commitment. And there's something about the concept of resolving is being resolute, or emptying out all the other options and saying, I am resolved to make these goals a reality. I may miss a deadline, but I am resolved to making these goals a reality. And if you have those commitments, live your calling, engage in your dreams, agree to make hard choices, deciding to fail forward, expanding your perspective, and resolving to achieve your goals, you have every opportunity to achieve extraordinary results. And remember, extraordinary is the definition of extraordinary is to go above and beyond what's usual, regular, and customary. So extraordinary doesn't have to be opulent wealth and opulent power and privilege and all the things, fancy cars and all that. It can just be 1% better than you were yesterday. And if you compound that and you commit to being consistent with going above and beyond what's usual, regular, and customary, and implement these 6 commitments over time, you'll watch how nearly every aspect of your life will become more extraordinary than it was a year ago, regardless of your circumstances. Even if something really bad happens in your life that you don't have any control over, you will have a more extraordinary outcome because of it, because of the way that you approach difficulties and adversity. So hopefully that overview is helpful, Tony, and we covered a lot there. But any questions?
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic, and I've started reading the book and I've done all that, and I'm practicing that, but it's a continual process, right? You're always tweaking and evaluating how those commitments, how you're living those commitments, the resolve to doing those things is always a process, right? And the failing forward and doing all of that is, I've written them down probably 4 times now, like over the course of our months of coaching and whatnot, because I keep needing to put pen to paper to remind myself, like, focus on these goals, focus on doing these things, and focusing on being that extraordinary person that I'd like to be. So thank you for sharing those with us. And obviously you go into significantly more detail in your book, and it's a great read. I'm enjoying it a lot. I did have one other question, but I know we're kind of running short on time. So I think one thing that a lot of our panelists and people on this call wanted to know is how to maybe increase sales, or how to increase opportunities and things like that. And we did a class maybe a month or 2 ago with some of your other clients, and that about creating an irresistible offer. And it might be something that we maybe do this webinar in the future, next month or next quarter or something like that, where we dive into that a little bit more detail. But if you want to maybe give us a quick little sampling of creating that irresistible offer, and kind of, because you can implement it into whatever business you're in. If it's, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's not for just loan officers, not just for real estate agents or anything else like that. But the irresistible offer, if you could just touch on that for a minute, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, the very first thing that I always try to talk to business owners or sales representatives about is just making sure that they understand what their unique value proposition is. And everyone has one. It's just about taking the time to clarify it and to memorize it so that you can communicate it in such a way where it just comes off very naturally. So the first thing that I would ask you is that, what makes you different than all the other people out there that do the same thing as you? And oftentimes what people will say to me is, well, customer service, communication, competitive fees, competitive rates, competitive whatever. Um, I'm knowledgeable. And when I ask them the question, can any of your competitors say those exact same things? They oftentimes go, yeah, I guess, but it's not true. Well, yeah, but most of them are saying those same exact things. So you really aren't standing out. You're really not unique in the marketplace. And that's one of the things that you want to go to work on if you want to create more separation and dominate the competition, is that you want to get to the point where you could really get crystal clear on what it is that brings uniqueness and value to the people that work with you. So, we've talked about this with Tony for the last couple of months, is really understanding this factor that he brings this unique background of being an underwriter. Usually underwriters are not very good on the front end with working with individual clients and helping their partners to develop a strategic plan for success. That they're more of an analytical. They're not necessarily the person that's maybe as good in a sales position or in a relational position when it comes to increasing opportunity. That's not a mandate. There's always uniqueness out there, but Tony has that uniqueness about him. He spent years in this profession of analyzing very important information and mastering guidelines and strategies and tactics on how to get loans approved and what would be risky and things of that nature. So understanding that he's probably less than 0.5% in the overall industry, especially the fact that he actually is a business owner and actually works in a management position, overseeing individuals, that's even more unique. And so we talked about the idea of incorporating that one factor. If you would go back and look at the total number of loans that Tony has either underwritten or originated, there would probably be a large number. What would you say, Tony? Ballpark figure? What would you say?
Thousands. Yeah.
So what I try to encourage individuals to do is to go out there and to identify what is the average number of transactions that you would do in a month, and then just times it by the number of months that you have been in the business or in the industry. And what happens is you come up with a number that's very unique. So Tony could do some general math and he could say something like, I've been in the mortgage industry for X number of years and I have underwritten and originated 4,222 loans or 1,569 loans. And what that does is it makes Tony stand out as an experienced originator, an experienced professional in his area of expertise. And most other people, I would say all of the people that are in his competition, couldn't say those exact same things. He could also say things like, I own my own branch. I have the complete control over prioritizing specific files if I need to get more urgent matters resolved. I also have a team of people. I have a team of X number of staff members who are available that can end up helping you to get your deals worked through or to answer immediate requests. So he brings a certain set of uniqueness to the table. And most of you all would be able to come up with your own unique value proposition. You don't need to compare yourself to Tony. You need to basically just identify what are the unique qualities, what are the unique strengths, what are the unique experiences that you bring to the table, and how could you begin to work that into a basic elevator introduction or an elevator pitch. You're not looking at trying to tell them all of the things that you've accomplished in a five-minute dissertation. You're trying to give them the basic factors that make you stand out in the marketplace. And then if you can get to the point where you can kind of work through, I have this video I did called Cursors, which is the word cursors, Cursors, is a process of being able to create or craft an irresistible offer. And it's really helping you to compare yourself and contrast what you do versus what the others in the marketplace do so that you stand out in a competitive marketplace. It's creating a sense of urgency, creating a sense of desire or a level of scarcity, decreasing the risk. There's a whole bunch of different things that can go into your irresistible offer. And if you reach out to Tony, he can share the link to the video that I did that describes this, and I'd be more than happy to talk with you personally individually, all of you who are watching this, to talk a little bit more and give you some of that value at no cost, just because that's one of the things that Tony organized when he put this together, is a chance for anyone that was on the call or watched the recording to do a little discovery session and help each and every one of you to clarify a little bit more about what extraordinary value proposition and extraordinary life means to you. But those are some real quick tips that we like to cover when we're first getting started in crafting that irresistible offer.
Well, thank you so much, David. I really appreciate your time and joining us today and sharing some of these tools and insights and everything like that. And I don't know if I mentioned it earlier in the call, but like every time after our weekly sessions, my wife is like, "You're changed," like my demeanor has changed, like my comfort has changed, my focus has changed. And it could be the worst day ever, but I meet with you and I get a better perspective, and I get tools on how to and how to shape things and change my mindset and focus on my commitments and my goals. And so I thank you for that. I thank you for your time today. I thank you for everybody that's on the call today. I think it's been fantastic. I hope you took some really good nuggets out from it, and it can help you with your business. And we look forward to doing more of these in the future. And maybe we'll have you back, Dave, in a month or two, and then pick a new topic and learn some more from you. So thanks again. And thanks everyone on the call. Feel free to reach out if you need anything. I'm sure my contact information is going to be somewhere associated with this video. So look forward to working with you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.